still my town. My town.
Hi, welcome back to Connecting Clarkston. This is our season 2, episode 7, and we are really excited to be here today. We talk a lot about why Clarkston is a great place to live, and we've talked to a lot of people how they like to come back to Clarkston and raise their families here. And what I think is really cool about today's episode is we have some young Clarkston graduates, one very recent, one from a few years ago. So I'm really excited to get your perspectives on living in Clarkston and the school experience and what you're up to and all that good stuff. So thank you both for being here. On my right here we have Michael Rosenkranz. Welcome, and he works for Independence Television. So he's really going to run the show today for us. And if anything goes wrong, I feel like we're in good hands. And we also have Jeung here, who just graduated, and we ran into Luke at the Community Awards about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So it's just all good, and we're very excited to have you both here and chat with us.
Thank you very much for having us. It's quite an honor.
Yeah,
You're
thanks
welcome.
for joining.
So let's start with you, Michael. Were you born and raised in Clarkston? How did you end up here?
Yeah, so I was not born and raised in Clarkston. So just for about maybe the first 9 months or so of my life, I was actually born in Royal Oak. And for the first 9 months or so, I lived in Troy. And then from about 2003 to 2012, I lived in Holly for 9 years. And then on my dad's birthday in 2012 is when I moved here to Clarkston. And I've been here ever since. Clarkston's such a great place to live. I mean, it's kind of got that small city feel, but I mean, it's such a great place to live, great people here as well. And I mean, when you get the community together to do such great events like this, it's been really, really special, and I've been really thoroughly enjoying my time in Clarkston.
Fantastic. So what school did you transfer into when you first got here?
Yeah, so I started at Independence Elementary. I did kindergarten through 3rd grade, or I guess preschool through 3rd grade in Holly. And then I did 4th grade at Independence Elementary, 5th grade there as well. And then I pretty much went through the rest of the entire school system, 6 at 7, and Sashabaw Middle School, and then 8, 9 at the junior high, and then 10 and 12 through the high school as well.
And tell me, what year did you graduate?
2021.
21. And you are currently a college student, which we're happy you're back
I am,
on
yes.
break to have a chance to chat with you. And where are you going to school?
Central Michigan University.
All right, fire up, Chips.
Fire up.
Okay. And then I want to get back into what you're doing now, but just a little teaser. You are working for Independence TV, and I think you said you've been doing this since 2018, right?
I have, yes. The first time I got involved with Independence Television was really September of 2018. It was kind of after a period of time where I was in the CSM Tech program for a year and a half. And to make things a long story short, it didn't really work out for me. And around that same time that I dropped out of the CSM Tech program, I had done some research on the curriculum guide and found a class called media production that kind of piqued my interest. So I was just kind of like, this class seems interesting. I want to check it out, see what I think about it, and just kind of see what happens. And from that class, you kind of learn the basics, just how to run a camera, doing editing in studio, and learning how to use the green screen behind us here. But just so all the basic stuff like that. But it was really one part of that class that really sold me. I learned through my very first media production teacher, Mr. Scott Banks, that students had the opportunity to film sporting events for the high school. And my very first event that I did was a football game, and I kind of remember it very vividly. I was on the wide camera that night, and at that time, my previous media production teacher, Mr. Matt Blow, was the station manager at the time, and he was up in the press box along with a few other students, and it was really nerve-wracking for me, to be honest. Just going up, a whole different perspective, didn't really know what was going to happen, But, he just sort of made it in a way where he just really put myself at ease, and I was able to just get into a rhythm really, really quickly, and super great to work around, super great teacher as well. And
When you say, I'm sorry to interrupt, when you say wide camera, I know we're doing the show, but we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? What does that mean?
So the wide camera is going to be your widest angle. Like we have 2 close-ups in front of us right now, but the one starting on you is a little bit of a wider, and the one that's showing the 4 of us all together would be your wide shot. So if you go back and post and see the 4 of us together, that would
Like
be
this
technically
right now.
exactly
Yes.
exactly
Yeah.
like this on the program monitor. There's your
Okay.
wide shot right
Yeah.
there.
So
But
that's where you started at the football game.
yes, that's where I started the football game. And to be honest, that first game was really all I needed to continue forward. I mean, I got hooked pretty much instantly. And yeah, just from that moment, just going through the ropes and just learning everything that I can about broadcast media, especially sports media. It's what I'm studying at Central Michigan. Majoring in broadcasting with a minor in sport management, just to kind of narrow that field down. But over my time in high school, I filmed all sorts of sports. I mean, basketball, football, soccer, swimming, you name it, even other community events that I've done over the past few years. Was a quick summer intern in 2019, and then the play-by-play opportunity for me really came in 2021. The first game I did with that was basketball. That's one of my top 2 sports that I do for Clarkston is football and boys and girls basketball, and it's been a blast. I mean, I love coming into work here every day. It's a new day for something exciting, and you learn something new every day you come into this place, and I just love it. The people have been nothing but gracious to me, and I
think
thoroughly
it's-
enjoy it here.
So great to hear students that start a class and feel so inspired by it that that's what they end up pursuing. I know we recently met with the marketing class, and it seemed like there were a lot of kids in that class also who were like, this is what I want to do, and just moving forward with it.
Yeah,
So, and I feel like maybe that's kind of maybe a similar story that you'll share with us.
Yeah, were you born and raised here? Tell us your connection to Clarkston.
I was, yeah. I've grown up in Clarkston my whole life, which would be the 18 years. My first experience was doing pre-K, and then I went to elementary at Springfield Plains for the full 6 years there. I went to Sashaball Middle School, and then Clarkston Junior High, and then the high school where I'm at now. So I've grown up in Clarkston my whole time. I've kind of gone through that whole progression. In my time at the high school, I've done a lot of different classes. I just finished my senior year last week, so
Congrats.
thank you. We had graduation, I think June 3rd, so that's later on at Pine Knob. I'm excited for that. But I had a great time at the high school. I really saw a lot of different opportunities in the classes I've taken. I went through a couple different programs, a lot of AP classes with that curriculum. My main course, though, would be CSM Tech. I was in CSM Tech for a full 5 years personally. I joined in 8th grade early on because it had an opportunity for me to learn more about science and mathematics and how it's applied to technology.
How do you get in early like that?
CSM Tech is a program that's mainly for 9th through 12th graders, but it's open all the way through the beginning. There's a test that you'll take for placement when you're in the end of your 7th grade year if you're interested in joining. Okay. I know there's a lot of kids right now who are in the 8th and 9th grade that are in that program. There's a super big boost in the lower sections. Clarkston's really been putting a lot of more focus back into CSM Tech, which I'm thankful for. It's a program that, like Michael said, might not be for everyone, but for me and a lot of other students, it's been a perfect opportunity to see how science and math can be combined in technology, both in the classroom but also out of the classroom. We've done opportunities like there's a lot of camping trips we'll go on. A group just actually went down to Kentucky last week, I believe, to go on a caving expedition. We do drone competitions. There's a lot of robotics opportunities through CSM Tech. So I was able to experience learning in the classroom and then see how that applied outside too.
Was this Mammoth Cave? I know that was not
Yeah.
the takeaway from this. However, I did go on that caving tour, and that's a whole podcast episode all on its own.
I mean, you can't be claustrophobic,
Oh,
right?
it was
to do that.
insane. You didn't go on the Mammoth Cave?
I went
tour?
Mammoth Cave 2 years ago with CSM Tech.
Oh my gosh, did you have like the headlight and the pads?
Yeah, yep.
And you had to like physically help each other up? Okay, I almost did not make it out of Mammoth Cave, but I'm glad you guys had a good trip.
And Luke, I'm so glad you brought that up. Both of my brothers happen to be in CSM Tech for a full 5 years as well. And they told me so many stories about that Kentucky trip, and they did the caving too.
Yeah.
And they did some whitewater rafting as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And, I mean, just through that whole CSM Tech program,
If
they
I
just
can
did
find
so
it,
much.
we will
Yes.
put in the picture of me at Mammoth Cave. It's horrid. Like I saw a mirage. Like
I thought she was going to die.
it was an experience. I'm not a caver. Okay.
But you had to figure it out.
Yeah.
So from all that experience, now you're going to U of M.
Yep.
Go Blue. I'm a big fan. So tell us about what your plans are at U of M.
I'm going to Michigan in the fall, and I'm going to be majoring in communications and media. Similar to Michael, I've had a lot of experience personally on Team Rush, which was the high school robotics team here, where I learned a lot about media, production events and stuff like that, and that kind of ensued a knowledge in me that I wanted to pursue more through communications and media. So it's kind of interested me on being on both ends of the camera. So where I am now, kind of doing public relations or event explanation, stuff like this, but also on the back end, how are live events produced, kind of what's going on the back end. I had a friend who went to Michigan. She just graduated, but she was one of the sports photographers for the football game, so she was field side. She got to travel with the team to the Rose Bowl and the national championship, and to me that was just something that was super cool and something that I want to do. So Michigan just has so many opportunities for me, being such a big school, that I'm able to pursue some of those specific interests that I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's such a great endorsement for Clarkston schools, but also for you as individuals. But all the opportunities that you guys had here, which is pretty amazing. But can we talk about, we met you, was it 2 weeks ago at the Community Awards?
Yeah.
You were honored as the Youth of the Year, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that?
The Clarkston Youth of the Year was a great award. I got nominated for by my CSM Tech teacher and robotics coach, Mrs. Hughes. She was a huge role model in my life, but the award recognizes one youth from the Clarkston area every year who really went above and beyond, not only in the classroom, but also giving back to their community and acting as a leader in the community. So a lot of my experience went through CSM Tech and Team Rush, as I had opportunities like being the captain of Team Rush for 2 years, leading a drone team to the national championship 2 years in a row. We won first place our first year and second place our second year. So we had a lot of fun doing that. But my experience with Team Rush has led me a lot to giving back to the community. We have the Holiday Lights Parade every year in December that we organize. We have our Rush Regatta, which is a cardboard and duct tape boat race that we do. I've helped fundraise about $15,000 for the team over my 4 years, which has really been a great opportunity to see how budgeting and finance work. But giving back to my team also lends itself to giving back to the community through different events that we do. So I was able to be honored for those things, which is really cool.
And we were so impressed, like you're just so comfortable public speaking, which not everybody is, and you just seem like this is the right path for you with the media, and both in front and behind the scenes, like you were talking about. And I wanted to go back to you, Michael, with you're the voice of many sports. So we were talking about this before: boys and girls basketball, boys and girls lacrosse. Am I right?
Yep, I do public address for boys and girls lacrosse.
Go ahead. I know I'm missing something. Basketball, lacrosse.
And then I'm the play-by-play voice also for Clarkston football.
And football. And you were saying you were just in here filming your Michigan moments. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that was just really an opportunity to, just try and learn some more stuff, just keep honing my craft on camera and just sort of upgrading my skills, if you will. And I'm still learning to get, a little more comfortable at ease with public speaking. Play-by-play has definitely gotten me a pathway for that, for sure. But being in front of the camera like this is so much fun. I mean, it gets to a point in when you're in front of the camera, it's like all you want to do is like just be yourself. And it's like that's the thing about play-by-play, funny enough, too, because there's almost this desire to sound like somebody. It shouldn't be like a broadcast version of yourself, in a sense. Just be you. And that's something I'm still learning every day, but being in front of the camera and just working up my way to working behind the scenes first and working to my way in front of the camera, it's been wonderful. It really has.
I think that I saw you on a podcast talking sports.
Yes.
And that seems like a very natural fit for you.
Which podcast was it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's one of my productions that one of the shows that I've been involved with at Central Michigan. One of my good buddies. Quick shout out to Anthony Schulte and my co-host Ryan Donnelly for that show. It's called Card Guys. We're a Detroit sports talk show. So we'll talk everything: Tigers, Red Wings, Lions, Pistons. And both of those guys, Anthony and Ryan, are big fans of sports cards. I have a few myself, but I'm not as big as a collector as them.
Trading cards we're talking
about.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes, so we'll talk a little bit about that, but other than Detroit sports and sports cards, we'll talk about pretty much anything in the sports world. I've mentioned Clarkston Lacrosse on there once, and we've even been fortunate enough to bring some special guests on, including Dan Miller, play-by-play voice of the Lions, Johnny Kane. He's a fill-in play-by-play for George Blaha for the Pistons, and he's a reporter for Bally Sports Detroit. So, I mean, just a couple of those big names that we've been so fortunate enough to get, and it's been amazing. I mean,
how do people find that?
Yeah, so we are on YouTube as well. It's called Card Guys Detroit Sports Talk. If you look that up on YouTube, you'll see that there. this was the season, we're in our second season, funny enough, of Card
Yeah,
Guys as
yeah.
well. And this was the season where we really wanted to try and up our production up a little bit. Our first season that we did this was last year, and it was just all audio based. Now we incorporate, we got ourselves a tripod for in studio, and we set up one of our phones and we record inside the studio about us talking sports, and it's really been taken off. The visual quality, in my opinion, just looks so much better, and it's really brought the production up to a higher quality level, and have it being able to have, you know, guests call in or having recurring personalities on the show and call in. It's been a blast. It really has.
That is amazing. Is there any pressure on you, or maybe now that you've done it for a while, like especially for doing the play-by-play for Clarkston football, Clarkston basketball? I mean, these are well attended. These people are, you know, diehard fans. I mean, it's a giant school. Like, how do you get over the nerves and the pressure to perform in that, like, pretty big audience?
It is a big audience, and you know, there's definitely still nerves. I mean, I get nervous before every game, and I will admit that. Whether I'm doing play-by-play for Clarkston, even for Central Michigan, I still get nervous because I put a lot of pressure on myself. Because in my mind, whether I'm doing stuff for ITV, whether I'm doing stuff for Clarkston or my school, I want to put out the best possible product that I can. And at times it won't be perfect, but I'm trying to remind myself, you know, that that's okay. But having this big of an audience, though, just sort of fuels that fire in a way, just to continue to perform better, you know? I mean, the Clarkston faithful for sports is fantastic, and you know, we moved to Clarkston in 2012, and that was funny enough when both the football team and the basketball teams ended up winning their state championships. Football, of course, in 13, 14, and 17, and then basketball in 17, 18. So I mean, there hasn't been obviously a state title since, but you know, there's been some promising postseason runs that really has been, you know, positive outlook to look forward to. But really, it's just, you know, being able to trust yourself and have that self-confidence, which is something I'm still working on.
I think also I've seen you like talk about different athletes too, and you seem to have like a really good understanding and kind of know like who's making moves, and it's interesting to like hear somebody kind of give you the cliff notes on that.
Yeah,
So,
it really is interesting. And one thing I found out with high school sports and college sports in terms of just from a preparation standpoint is it's vastly different. High school, you will barely find any game notes on anybody, maybe an article or two about a certain player. I remember one time I was talking about, I think it was a kid on North Farmington's basketball team who was originally at West Bloomfield on their football team and made a whole bunch of changes, you know, even to his diet. He did rigorous exercises too. And, you know, just those storylines itself are what really drive a broadcast. And when I'm doing more high school sports, I do want to look for that much more often than just numbers and statistics. Because at this point, I think anybody can report on numbers and statistics. More people want to hear stories, I feel like, nowadays.
That's something
Agree.
we've talked about, wanting to kind of like touch base with some of the students
Yeah.
and hear the story behind what they're doing. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing great things. You seem confident. Both of you seem very confident, and are going to do amazing things. I know you work with Independence Television, so you come back every summer, and then as a part-time basis. And what do you do for them?
Yeah, so really in the summer, I am just a production assistant for them. Just recently, I was out at the food truck rally on Friday, and I just finished up the video this morning, actually, with a colleague of mine. So we'll hopefully get that scheduled here. But in the summer, I usually film events for ITV. If they need me to act as a host for a certain event, like I did with the food truck rally, I will do that. I know last year I was a host for the Independence Fest last year, as well as the Garden Walk. So more on-camera stuff like that. John and I have been in talks about possibly getting into some summer sports, but that's kind of still up in the air. But I mean, any on-camera experience, as well as being able to edit back in post, just keeps my mind sharp, and it keeps
Sharpens the saw. Yes.
exactly sharpens the saw, and it keeps it going.
What do you think in 5 years? Where do you hope to be as far as career-wise? What do you want to be doing? Are you taking over Dan Miller's job? What's happening?
That's a
kidding.
pretty big ladder to climb, but that ultimately is a very big goal of mine. I think in 5 years, just looking at a 5-year window, I've been talking with a couple different broadcasters in and around the Mid-American Conference at Central. Just recently, I was in Indiana calling baseball at Ball State University. I got to talk with the voice of the Cardinals there, Mick Tidrow, and talk about where he got started. And his job is, he's the voice of the Cardinals, and he pretty much does almost all of their sports. He's radio for football and basketball. There's sometimes a TV broadcast for basketball as well, and he'll even do like gymnastics and just all those other extraneous sports like that.
So you can either like specialize in a single sport and travel, or you commit yourself to a town or a university. Is that kind of either path that you can take as a broadcaster?
I would say yes, either path you could take. Most broadcasters honestly could start in local TV too. So that could be a good gateway for me to get going. But having that job, I think, where you're just committed to a university, maybe doing a few different sports, seems like a really, really good starting point.
Yeah.
But I mean, getting experience in local TV too would be just as amazing. I mean, you get to continue to build your skills wherever you go, and ultimately when somebody opens up your, your highlight package or what's called your demo reel and just basically decides whether or not you're going to get a job, it's just more motivation just, to continue to hone your craft and to be able to keep doing what you love, and that's what I've been able to do, and I absolutely love what I do.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like you've had a lot of good experiences and good mentors. And I think, Luke, during your award acceptance speech, I feel like you talked somewhat about working with like kind of a more mentoring position. Was it with Team Rush?
Yeah.
Or how does that work?
So Team Rush is a 4-year program for high school students if they want to start in 9th grade, but we're a competitive robotics team. So as a team, we both will build a robot in about 2 months, a little bit over that, and then compete across the state and the country. But again, we also are doing a lot of community outreach events and giving back to the community. So on the team, I've served as a team captain and also the media sub-team captain for 3 years. So in that aspect, I'm doing a lot of photography and videography, which is really where started my passion kind of started. My dad is a photographer growing up my whole life, so I learned a lot from him about basic composition, and he was the first one to put a camera and a video camera in my hands, probably when I was like 5 years old.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I've had experience growing up.
Is that your dad's career?
He uses it as a kind of like a side gig and a hobby.
Okay.
He did a lot of like graduation photos. He did a couple weddings and stuff like that.
Okay.
It was a great hobby that he was able to teach me and one of my sisters, who also does kind of photography as a side gig. But on the team, I had a lot of different mentors that were able to kind of show me what the media aspect looked like, and then use that to produce videos, mainly for our YouTube channel, that get posted as recaps after each of the competitions we went to, or reveals for what our robot does each season. I did one in 2022 that just broke 40,000 views, and then one in 2024 that just broke 27,000 views, which is kind of cool because we're Team 27.
Nice.
We just finished our 27 year, so there was a lot of historical writing down of things and recapping of everything that happened. So we have our awards night that'll be coming out, and then we'll get some more videos posted on that channel after that, and then we'll see who carries that on in the legacy. In these past 2 years, I was a member of the drive team as one of the human players, so I was helping to interact with the robot, feeding it the game pieces. Our robotics team is competed in a sense where it took the sports model and adapted that to robotics. So just like in basketball or in football where you have 2 teams playing, that's what we get, except you get 2 groups of 3 teams each that are playing against each other in a game. Okay. Sometimes it's a ball that they're tossing to each other, it's a frisbee that they're shooting around in the air. So I was able to help interact with the robot on the field, but what that meant is that I couldn't be behind the camera. So it really allowed me an opportunity to learn about teaching and mentorship. So I was able to become a mentor by training forwards to some of the newer students on the team, teaching them about how do cameras work, what are the things that I did, so that they were able to produce media, so that even though I was on the field, I'll be gone after this spring. Right. So there'll be more people to carry that on, hopefully.
Is there a robotics team at U of M?
There are several groups that kind of do like clubs. And there's a group at U of M called the MES, who is kind of a conglomerate group of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 teams that are all working together from the Flint and Ann Arbor area that come together. But First Robotics, the organization that runs our competition, is really extensive. There's opportunities to give back. So over the summer and the fall, I referee events that they run in the off season, giving back there, or possibly mentoring a team in the future too.
Wow.
Were you just in Texas? was the robotics team?
We were, yeah. About maybe a little bit over a month ago, we were down in
Okay.
Texas for the World Championship. So this brings together teams from not only across Michigan, but teams from all over the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Israel, Turkey, Spain, Germany, China, Italy. Like, there's teams everywhere that are all able to come together and compete under one building, which is super cool. I think there was like over 150,000 people in attendance between high school and then middle school and elementary robotics. So we had a really, competitive season down there. We competed with our team and we ended third in our division. There's so many teams that they have to split everyone up, but we had a great time down there. And that was coming right after our state championship. So we won the Michigan State Championship this year again, which was great. So that was a pretty great end for a senior season.
Well, and do you see all these different influences from the international community? I mean, are you all sort of on the same path, or are you looking over at like Turkey, like, oh, cool, look what they're doing? Like,
Yeah.
how does it change, or how is it different?
Most of the teams are based out of the U.S. Michigan actually has the highest number of teams across the U.S., but there's also Texas. And as I mentioned, Canada, Mexico, the Netherlands, and Turkey and Israel are probably the highest, countries that have teams as well. A lot of teams will post like blogs like these on podcasts or video casts throughout the season of, hey, here's what we're doing with our robot. Here's a prototype design that we're making, which are really helpful to both newer but also returning teams to see, hey, here's some of the ideas. Every year in January, all the teams across the world get the same game that we're competing with, and they have about 2 months to build that robot. So a lot of people are posting during those 2 months about, here's what we're trying, here's what we found out. So you get a lot of influences from, all those international teams and also local teams for ideas that maybe you would never think of.
So it's collaborative.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Steve Heyer was just on with us a couple weeks ago, who's a Clarkston grad,
Yeah.
who was pretty involved with robotics and is a judge.
Yes.
Did you happen to run into him while you were there with the 150,000 people?
I don't know if he was down.
He saw him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember if he was down there. I did see him at the award ceremony, so it's nice to see him there. He's a member of the Board of Education too,
Yes.
so we see him. Team Rush has gone there a couple times to get recognized by the board, which is a super great honor to have between our drone teams or our robotics team. We've been there probably about 3 or 4 times now, so been able to talk to him a little bit. He also was able to come back and help our team. He used to be a mentor back, especially in like 2012 to 2014. I remember he was super involved then. He was involved for many, many years.
Yeah.
But he comes back, and over the summer last year, he helped give students an opportunity to see what interviewing for a company was like. And he acted as a mock interviewer along with
Nice.
several of our other larger sponsors and relations like that. So he was able to come in and teach students like me, what is an interview like for a job, and then give
Yeah.
advice to students on how they can make
Gosh,
it better.
that's a great
So
idea.
he's given back to the community a lot too.
Oh, for sure.
Can you tell us more about the drone competitions? What is a drone competition?
Yeah, there's a
Is
lot
it
of
a light show?
That's what
I
I was
wish.
thinking, like
Okay.
fireworks. You know how they're like replacing fireworks?
They're
Yeah.
awesome.
There's a company called Firefly Drones who was one of Team Rush's sponsor and has had several alumni of our team go and work for them. They do that thing where they'll take drones and kind of simulate fireworks shows with them, which is super cool. Team Rush has had a drone club, I think, all the way since probably 2017. It's been run down in the basement, so we get kids to come in once a week after school, fly little drones around obstacle courses, races, stuff like that. But these past 2 years, we've really been picking it up with a lot of different drone opportunities, both in the class for CSM Tech students, but also for Rush students simultaneously. We had, our biggest one was called the AVR, Advanced Vertical Robotics. So we had a group of about 7 or 8 students in these past 2 years that, similar to First Robotics, we were given a game, we built a drone to solve that game, and the drones are, they're pretty big. They're about 2 feet big in each dimension. So we build these drones, and then we competed at Granville, Michigan, over on the other side of the state. We won that competition, and then this past year, and then we got to fly down to Hurst, Texas, which is near Houston. We were able to compete there for the national championship. So we got second place this last year. The year before that was our rookie year, which we won first in, which is really, really cool. That year when we won first place, the team who took second, they lost to us by 1 point. It was like 480 to 479.
Wow.
They were super gracious and super nice about it, but they said we're gonna come back next year, and they beat us by like 200 points this past year. But they said that you guys just had such a spirit, and you guys really motivated us to become better. So
Who runs that program? Who leads that program?
that drone program is through an organization called REC, the Robotics Education Corporation, I think. I don't remember the acronym.
Okay.
But REC does a lot of different things with Vex Robotics, which is spread across the country for middle school and high school students. They do these drone opportunities. There's a lot of collaboration there.
For the drone program, like, is that something that's branching out into the younger grades, or is that something that you just get an opportunity once you reach a certain age?
For the longest time, drones was kind of restricted to high schoolers just because as a team and as a community, it was always kind of, ooh, do we want little kids flying these drones around? I mean, you never know what's going to happen,
expensive,
right?
or whatever.
After graduating Team Rush this year, I believe every summer we hold different summer camps for students. In the past, it's been a lot of 3D modeling or Lego robotics. We had a girls camp the past few years that went great, but they're adding a drone camp this year, I think I heard. So they'll be giving, I believe it's upper elementary kids, an opportunity to learn about drones and fly them around for a little bit. Okay. So the Clarkston community should see some information going out soon, hopefully, about that.
Yeah, we'll try to get our hands on that too and link it. So you've had so many different experiences at Clarkston High School and now heading to U of M. Do you know what your ideal job would be after graduation? Or maybe it's too early to pick, but if you had to, do you know what you're aiming towards?
Similar towards Michael, there's a lot of opportunities in sports that I've been interested in. Going to U of M, you have U of M football, which, national champions coming off this year. There's been a lot of, shifting with players and faculty, of course, but Michigan provides a lot of opportunities for their sports teams to get more involved in. So possibly not looking at the broadcasting per se, but on the back end of it. For example, how are the multicams run? For larger, broader picture after college, maybe looking at, groups like ESPN or any other sports events production teams. How do they put on these events that people watch at home on their TVs, right? What are the cameras? What's the audio? What's all the lighting used from each scene? So kind of bringing that all together. Media has been a huge passion of mine for the past years that I've learned both on Team Rush, but then also through, out-of-class opportunities.
Wow, I have no doubt that you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Same with Michael.
Yes.
We were meant to ask you guys, actually, I forgot to ask while we're talking about high school, do you guys have a favorite class? I know I maybe emailed that to you guys, but no pressure, but a favorite class from all of your years here through Clarkston schools?
Oh, wow. There's so many of them. I mean, I could go the biased route and maybe say some media production classes. But also, I think one of my favorite classes has had to be Japanese language program. I was in there for all 5 years.
Really?
And I was able to form such a great relationship with Miss Valtadoris. We call her Sensei. Sensei's teacher, of course, in Japanese.
Michael, I took Japanese for 3 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I only
Did you
remember
really?
like 2 sentences, but yes.
You guys can talk after.
Do a simple greeting, right?
Yes.
There you
Oh,
go.
That's awesome.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
Interesting.
the Japanese language class was so much fun, and eventually, as you move on in the years with the language, you see the same kids pretty much every day. You're able to form relationships with them, and it's been really, really fun with the Japanese program and the media program here for sure. I'd say those are my 2 favorite.
And he's not biased at all, John. As he's staring us down. No, I'm just kidding.
As he's staring at us in the
Obviously,
studio.
it had an impact. Look where
Yes.
his career is going. How about you, Luke?
I'll have to go my biased route, which would be the CSM Tech program as a whole. Specifically, probably there's a course that I took this year. It's called Biochem Engineering. It's a class that kind of combines both biology and chemistry into a lab-oriented class. So most of the class is structured through labs and different techniques that you'll learn through that. There's not a lot of lecturing. It's a lot of hands-on. Here's a lab rubric. Sometimes you don't get one, and it's, make it work at the end. There's a lot of opportunities. We got to do some fun things like, producing ethanol from food products or stuff like that, and then lighting it on fire. We had opportunities to grow yeast and then make a car drive by producing CO2. So it was a lot of fun to do all of these labs. And as Michael mentioned, CSM Tech was a program that I was able to come back year after year to and see the same people and the same teachers, which I think was a huge benefit, like a language class, that you're surrounded with the same people. Having the same teachers that kind of understand who you are as a learner, and having students around you that you feel comfortable reaching out to when you say like, hey, I didn't understand this in class, could you help explain? It was a really comfortable environment that you were able to reach out to people, but also when things didn't work perfectly, like when your car that you tried to drive with yeast exploded, it wasn't something, a couple times, you made these little yeast cars, but it wasn't
not like a full-size car.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Got
But when when things went wrong, it wasn't the end of the story. Failure was very much encouraged down in CSM Tech because it's such a safe place to fail before going off to some place like college, right, where you're paying money for your education. It was encouraged to fail so that you could learn to fail now and not later, and really using that as a growth mindset opportunity to see how you can improve.
Wow, that is amazing. You guys are
Luke,
both
I can just see the message on Mrs. Hughes' wall.
Fail faster. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I like that.
You guys are such great, like both great ambassadors, not only for Clarkston Schools, but our town. Like you guys are just, I'm just so impressed. Are there people that you could recommend that we have come on to our show and talk to us in the future that you could share with us?
Students, teachers,
whoever, any interesting community members like yourselves who have stories to tell?
I probably have two that I would think of. My first one would be Mrs. Hughes.
Yes.
She's the department lead for CSM Tech. She's a math teacher. She's the head of a robotics team. She's really just done so much for the CSM Tech program, but also the high school. And I think that she would be a good representative. Also, Pastor Greg Henneman, he's the senior pastor at Clarkston Community Church, where I do go. But he's also done a lot for the community between service projects, giving back to the community, opening the doors for everyone. He's really brought in a lot of people, not only to our church, but into the community, I think. And he's someone that might get overlooked sometimes. He's always very, very busy with his jobs, running missions trips. I think he just got back from Honduras, actually. But he's done so much.
He was like the presenter, right? At the
at the
community.
awards.
Yes. Okay.
And Kyle Hughes has been mentioned before. We have to get her on. Yeah, thanks. Those are great recommendations. How about you?
Let's see. I would have to say, maybe to do another shameless plug here with our own staff, I'd say
John,
anyone
right?
from
Is it
our
John?
TV staff.
Are we putting
I would have to say John. I mean, coming off of now, we're actually going to be going to. We talked about it a little bit off camera. The staff from the calendar year 2023 is actually going to be going to San Jose, California next year. Independence Television was fortunate enough to receive I can't say the entire award name because it's a mouthful, but essentially in layman's terms, it is the best overall community TV station for the calendar year of 2023 in our budget area. So I would definitely love to have a show with John on, absolutely. And I would say as well, Ms. Valtadoris, I mean, she's the only Japanese teacher in the district, and she's been pretty much there ever since I started going into the Japanese language program. I mean, I go back as early as to the Sashba Middle School, where I took that just like a little introductory in 7th grade. And then from really that point on, I just took off, and I've known her for so long. And it would be great to get her perspective as well. And she has a really, really interesting story. I mean, she's trilingual. She speaks Greek, English, and Japanese. And growing up in a Greek household with, I think she has 8 siblings, and she's in the middle. But
A lot of Windex.
Exactly.
You saw the movie, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
But
great.
it would
Well,
be
yeah.
awesome to get her perspective
Those
as
are
well.
great recommendations.
Now, if John comes on, can you handle the
Yeah.
filming? Like,
Oh, yeah.
how's that going to work?
Flip-flop?
Okay.
Oh yeah, roles might be reversed.
Yeah,
but
we got it all
have it all
figured out.
figured out.
No
Absolutely.
excuses. Well, wow, I'm so impressed by both of you, and thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. And we're going to just be watching you, keeping an eye on what you guys are up to. I feel like maybe we're, you guys are going to be, I don't know, like
Bright
beyond,
futures,
yeah, such
yes.
bright futures. I was like, can we just elect you right now? Are you going to run? Like, what are we doing here? Because I see maybe that in your
Good
future.
things,
Yeah,
good things
such
in
good
the
things, you
future.
guys, both of you.
Yeah,
Thank you, and
thank
good
you.
luck with your graduating. Was it next year? For
Yes, I
CMU?
will be. I'm a rising senior,
Yeah.
so it'll be my senior year this upcoming August. I'll be graduating in May.
Well, good luck, and good luck
Thank
on
you.
your first year at U of M, guys. Thank you so much to both of
guys.
you.
This podcast is brought to you by Independence Television, located inside Clarkston High School. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Independence Television, Independence Township, or Clarkston Community Schools.